Okay. Morning, everybody. Sorry about the change. Good thing. Mute everybody. Give me a second, please. Does anybody know in the in this new version of Zoom, how do you put it on speaker mode?
You mean by speaker mode?
In other words, that not everybody appears on the screen. That's what I was asking.
Oh, in the top right corner, there's a view button where you can choose whether you want to show the speaker or the.
There we go. Thank you. Used to be in a different place. Okay, we are in Os Zion of the Tzidkas Hatzadik, and I spent a lot of time last week on the concept of Kehillas Shivtei, which was very, very important. And what I want to do now is speak about something even more important, not necessarily complicated, a little bit complicated, but important. And what I'd like to do here is the Seder is read with you through the whole Zion. As I said I would do last week, I'm going to do it now, and then I'd like to try to explain. So Reb Tzadok's great ha'ara in Zion is that Zman Kriya Shema Toli B'Zman Achila. When I say his great ha'ara, it's such an obvious kasha, if you will, as why when the Chazal, the Mishnah, the first Mishnah of Brachos, wants to tell us when to say Kriya Shema, it says, well, let's look at when people eat. So ma kesher, when people eat, to when to say Kriya Shema. And he explains as follows: Zman Kriya Shema Toli B'Zman Achila. It's dependent on the Zman Achila. The Mishnah Deresh Brachos V'Shem B'Brais Hamad Beis. That's what we find. There it says B'Zman Shah Kohanim Nichnosim Lechel B'Truma. So when Kohanim start to eat Truma, which is when? After Tzeisak Chavim. Means that the Kohen has to go through a level of tahara, and has to go to mikvah and all that, and before he eats truma, and then he has to have tzeisak chavim. So this is a late shiur, if you will, in saying Kriya Shema, that the time you can read Kriya Shema is only after tzeisak chavim. Why is it totally in zman achila? Says Reb Tzadok, ki achila hu kiyum hachayim, v'hein kabbalas ol malchus shamayim. Because you have two principles here that are working together, living in the Gashmias and living in Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim in the Ruchnias. Ukamosha achilas ha'adam ba'boker ba'erev, and just like you eat in the morning and in the evening, kach Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim. So too is Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim. And I spent a long time explaining that it's not just that it happens to be parallel in terms of Zmanim, but it's totally zebazeh, and we're going to see this from the Hamshach of Reb Tzadok. It means to say that the somehow or another, like we learned last week in Rabbi Yaacov Haber, that the achila is even a bigger avoda than tefillah and Torah. It means to say that not just achila l'shem shamayim, but the integration of even my achila is ultimately malchus. Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim, let's just get our terms clear. Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim doesn't mean that I've decided today I'm going to be religious. Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim means that I am accepting upon myself that this world is the Malchus Hashem, And being that it's the Malchus Hashem, everything in this world was created because Ein Melech B'lo Am, Hashem created us. He created the animal life, the plant life, everything, in order to serve him. This is Hashem's world in a very, very deep way. It's not just Hashem is in this world, Hashem is the world, as we explained. And therefore, the more of the Gashmias in this world that I'm Mekadesh, the more of the Gashmias that I'm using for Ruchnias, so the more I'm being Makabel O Malchus Shemayim. Is this concept clear? That's what we spoke about last week. One more time. The more Gashmias that I'm using Leman Hashem, the more Gashmias, then the more Malchus there is. And just like we're taking a plant or even minerals, and we're bringing it up to a place of Malchus Shemayim. It means to say everything is for Malchus Shemayim. So being an ascetic is the easy way out. Like paresh from, like, I don't eat, I don't sleep, and of course that is an avoda of many of the tzaddikim, just to be paresh, to sit in kindness and to have as little gashmis as is humanly possible. But here Reb Tzadok is teaching us that but the Zman Kriya Shema, the Zman HaKabbalah Ol Malchus Shemayim is totally in the Zman Achila is Kiyam Ha'olam, that don't push it away so fast, because Adarabah, through Achila, one is actually bringing the Malchus to a lower level, which is really a higher level. In other words, we're bringing the Shechina deeper entrenched into the world. That's how we learn Pshat. And now he's going to explain the different shiurim. If you'll turn the page in Brachas, which you probably don't have in front of you, you'll see a Brisa, which is adding on to the Mishnah. Brisa means Basraisa, yes. Later than the Mishnah, this is what the Tanoim said. This is what's brought down from the Tanoim. And you have a few different shiurim. The Mishnah says the shiur is the Zman that the Kohanim eat their truma. But there's another shiur, which is when an ani eats pitoi bamelach. An interesting shiur. When do you say Kriya Shema? When a poor person eats his bread and salt, which is a very early shiur. Why is that an early shiur? So Rashi explains in the Gemara, because an ani has no lights in his house. He has no candle, has no ner. And since he has no ner, he can't eat in the dark. You can't do that. So he makes sure to eat while it's still daytime, while there's still some sun out. And that's already the Zman Kriya Shema. Another mandomer in the Brisa says, it doesn't go by the ani, the Zman Kriya Shema, it goes basar roiv b'nei adam. Most people do have a light in their house, and most people are allowed to eat. Maybe they don't want it to get good and dark, and it doesn't have to be like spiritual oimer teis akechavim. But they also, that's also a shiur when you're not rushing to eat before Shkia. So therefore, if we're going with them, the halacha is that the Zman Kriya Shema goes with roiv b'nei adam, as opposed to the ani, the poor person is eating quickly, as early as possible. Don't forget, he can't eat too early, because you have to work your fields and do whatever you want to do all day long. Especially because he didn't have lights. So, but as soon as he can get to eating, he eats. Mashen can't rob b'nei adam will finish their work and do what they have to do and then eat. Then there's another mandamer, which is interesting. Rav Tzadok is going to analyze all this, which that's not the shiur either. The shiur is strange. Like when people eat on Leil Shabbos, Friday night dinner, that's the shiur. So what's special about Friday night dinner? Friday night dinner, so first of all, some people make Shabbos early, some people make Shabbos late, different discussion. But the Friday night dinner is the pshat. Rashi says that you don't have to waste any time, because all of your cooking and your blech and everything, it's all prepared from before Shabbos. So now when it comes Shabbos, Yom HaShishi, you can get right down to business and make kiddush and hamotzi lachem in haaretz. You don't have to wait. Everything is prepared. So the whole inyan of Shabbos is that everything is muchan. Hence all the halachas of muksa, etc. So everything is muchan. So it's like yet a different shiur. You're not taking your time, or you don't have to wait to prepare your food. You're not an ani, which is eating pitoi b'melech. You're not a roi b'nei adam. It's a special type of a time of Leil Shabbos. And then those are the three shiurim: ani, roi b'nei adam, Leil Shabbos. But the halacha is, as the Nimukei Yosef paskins and the Shulchan Aruch paskins, that halacha kakohanim. That the Maisa, that's the Brisa, but we go with the halacha of the Kohanim. So the right time to read Kriya Shema is when Kohanim eat their truma, which means after it says that. That's the Pshat in the Mishnah and the Gemara, and that's the halacha l'maisa. Analysis says Rav Tzadok as follows. I have to say in advance, I found it a little bit. It took me a long time to understand some of the things that he's saying here. Not because it's deep Kabbalistic. I just didn't. It's just new to me. But here's what he says. Uman di yolif me ani bidas she'ein loy ner lahayer ene sichloi. And here he's saying drush or pshat, that an ani, a poor person who has no light, and therefore he has to eat early. But he's saying that the pshat in ani is that he has no light, inner light, lahayer ner, lahayer ene sichloi, to light up his thinking, his mind, his seichel. Umemaher ba'achila pshuta, kach kabbalas al malchus shemayim bepshitus, ka'ani zeh she'oichel rak pas b'melach. So what Rav Tzadok looks at the ani, I just want to explain it for a minute. He's not looking at the ani that, just like Rashi says, well, I haven't got a light, I haven't got a candle, so I got to eat fast. There's a certain pashtus, it's pas b'melech, and the ner that he's missing is the ner haneshama. Now, everybody's thinking to themselves, wow, is that drush? But the truth is, it's not such drush, because I just want to share with you, the Gemara says in the Darim, it's an important Gemara here. Wow. Here, I have it here in the Darim Mem Aleph. So the Gemara learns, the upshot of the Gemara is that Ein Ani Ela Bedas. Or specifically, that's how it's always quoted, but the Gemara says Ein Ani Ela Bedeya. And I'm jumping to the end, and I want to go back in this Gemara a little bit, but I've heard people say Ein Ani Ela Bedas, meaning that poverty is in your mind. Ever hear that shot? But that's not what it means. Poverty, it doesn't mean poverty is in your mind. What the Gemara is actually saying is that the pirush of the word ani is that you're lacking in das. That's what the Gemara is saying over here. I just want to read to you for a second the marsha on this Gemara. It's in the Darim Mem Aleph, an important marsha, and he explains this Gemara. He says, Hachi kamar, ein milas ani, the word ani, he's teaching us Hebrew here. The word ani, ein milas ani hunach ba mitus, when it's used in its true form, it's talking about ela alani bedas. When you say the word ani, you're talking about somebody who has no das. We need to explain what das is, but that's what it's talking about. If we're talking, says the Marsha, if you're talking about an ani who has no money, which is the way we use the word, einoi ela b'lashon mush'al. It's only talking about that's just borrowing the term. In other words, the essence of the word ani means that you have no das, which I'd like to explain. But when Rav Tzadok is saying that when the Gemara says the shiur for Kriya Shema is like an ani, when an ani eats and he has no ner, so it's not so removed from pshat. According to Marsha, it's better pshat to say he's talking about an ani, meaning a person who has no das. And das equals, follow me here carefully, is equals to ner. In other words, the ner, which equals to neshama. So think three things on the. There's a new whiteboard on Zoom, but I don't know how to use it. But the way you want to work it is
The whiteboard is under share screen if you want to use it.
Pamaba. Really? But what we're talking about is 3 words here. Ner, neshama, das. We know already, ner Hashem nishmas adam. So ner equals neshama, and neshama equals das. So let's put it this way. You can live your life with das, you can live your life without das. You can live your life like an anisha ein loideya, which he's going to tell us is not such a bad thing. Or you can live your life with neshama, meaning I'm constantly being informed by my neshama how to make decisions and how to live. That's what that means. See, the neshama, like the Gemara says in a number of places, the neshama sees what your body can't see. That's the pshat, by the way. The Gemara Nida Daf Lamed just occurred to me, where the Gemara says that uber b'mei imai, that a baby before it's born, when it's in its embryonic stage. So one of the things that the Gemara gives a mashal, that ubar, which is just, an unborn baby, ner doluk aroishay v'raya misayfa olam bat sayfa olam, says the Gemara. That baby can be compared to somebody who has like one of these, a candle on his head, ner doluk v'roishay, right? We think a miner in the big in the big digs in Africa or something, right? So you're 1,000 feet below the ground. He's in the mother's womb, but he has a ner doluk aroishay. He has a ner there, and with that ner, he's able to see me soifa olam bat soifa olam. What's Pirush Hadvarim? What's the pshat in that Gemara? And by the way, this pshat that I'm saying right now is the brother of the Gra at the end of his sefer writes that this is the pshat, that he's seeing with his neshama without any interruption of his guf. And the neshama can see and see and see and continue to see. The reason why we can't see the future, the reason why we can't see even the past, or sometimes we can't see the present, is the chatzitza of the guf. But the baby who's born doesn't have that, so he's and that's why the Gemara says he's able to be lomed kol atzara kula. So the ner is the neshama, and the neshama informs the guf what to do. Now, let's say somebody, for whatever reason, is disconnected from his neshama. So if he's disconnected from his neshama, he's an ani b'das. That's what an ani b'das is. And that's, as the Maharsha says, that's the actual pshat of an ani, ein loideya. Everything else is borrowed terms. So he's actually an ani b'das, meaning disconnected from his neshama. I would go with you. I just don't worry about time, and I want to get through it. But I would go through with this whole Gemara in the Dar Mem Aleph, how the Gemara comes to this conclusion from Sukkim and Yecheskel. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say the end of the Gemara, which you probably are familiar with. The Gemara says, "B'marava Amri," that in Eretz Yisrael they used to say it this way. In other words, this is Bavli. Abaya is Bavli, Ein Hani Ela B'das. But in Marova and Eretz Yisrael, they used to say it this way. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Da be kula be, loy da be ma be, da kane ma chaser, da chaser ma kane. So I believe that's a song sung by Avraham Fried, right? I will spare you the niggin right now, but it's a pretty cool Gemara. It's like you did Ben you did, so like using these Gemaras. But somebody came to this Gemara and made a niggin. So let's just translate it because this translates everything. Didabe kulabe says Rashi, Didabe kulabe, mishiesh by das, if you have das, mishiesh by hakol, sheino nechser klum, sefelt garnish, you're not missing anything if you have das. So Didabe, if you have it in you, das be, kulabe. The loy dabe, and if you have no das, mabe, even if you have everything in the world, you don't have anything. The dokani machoser. If you were kind of das, machoser, you're not missing anything. The loikani makani. You know, it's and if you don't have das, what do you have? So the Gemara is saying clearly in Eretz Yisrael they said it this way, but it's really the same thing as Abaye said. That what it means is that if you have das, das is not, again, we're explaining das. But if you have das, you've got everything. If you don't have das, you can have everything in the world. You could have the best houses, cars, and beautiful things around you. But if you don't have das, you don't have anything. But specifically makane. You know, I just want to say that, like, you know, all of us know the halacha that if somebody's going to make a kinyan or be makna something, needs das. Das koina, das makna. There has to be an element of das. You can't just sell something without das. I have to have das to buy it. You have to have das to sell it. So das. How are we translating das? Das is somebody who, das is the information or the guidance which is given to us by the neshama. So I just told you a mouthful of information, but it's very important information. First of all, we all need to have some das. But what that means is, and if we have time, I'll explain it a little bit further, because of course, like the whole Chabad movement is based on this, et cetera, on the union of das. I'm fond of quoting Rav Hutner, who whenever somebody would say something in the Shiur or in a meeting that was apparently stupid, he would scream at him, das! Don't you have any das? Specifically, you could be talking about a genius that has no das, because that's the case of you've got everything, but what do you have? That's what the Gemara says here. I'll try to come back to it. Here, the first shiur in the Brisa for Zman Kriya Shema is an ani. An ani yoshe ba'oichel pitoi ba'lechem. So man diyoleth mi ani b'das she'ein loy ner lohoyer einei sichloi. We're talking about somebody who, I don't think he means it in a derogatory way, but he's an ani b'das. And he is not being guided by the deep, sophisticated neshama which was planted within us. He's what I would call a pashat yid. He's just doing what we look at the guy saying Kriya Shema, right? We're talking about a pashat yid who's makabel al malchus shemayim. But I don't have a lot of sophistication in this. I don't have a lot of thought in this. I don't have a light in my closet of my heart that's going to create a very sophisticated Kabbalah Zol Malchus Shemayim. It's all Kriya Shema, that's all. I'm just saying Kriya Shema. So Tzadok explains, Meir b'achila pshuta kach Kabbalah Zol Malchus Shemayim, for this, when we're talking about an ani b'das, b'pshitos. Zeh shoycho rak pas b'melach. An ani b'das, if one, you know, and there's something to be said for the yid that just doesn't know any chachmas, just tell me what to do, tell me when to say Kriya Shema, you say Kriya Shema, Hashem Echad, Ya Hashem Echad, compared to the person who's, thinking about the Achdus Hashem and unity and Midas Hadin and Midas Harachamim and the Spherois, you know, like it's like the Mishnah Berurah brings the Rashash, or Shalom Sharabi, not the Makubal Rashash. He brings them that after all, the Rashash was one of the biggest Mukubalim in history. And the Mishnah Berurah brings them that when he davened Ketinoik ben Chamesh Shanim. There's something to the pshitos of it. And that's the first shiur of Kriya Shema. So the first opinion in the Brisa is that, okay, just say Kriya Shema. The second opinion is, B'chad man do'amar, Zebasar Roy B'nei Adam. Like, come on. Like, you could be like Roy B'nei Adam. Everybody's capable of a little bit of das. Everybody's capable of some sophistication. And when you're makabel o malchus shemayim, do it this way. He explains it. Degam kain einam tzrichen tara. He's not like a Kohen that has to go to the mikveh before he eats. and he has to have Hara Shimshoi before he eats. He has to wait till Tzeisak Chavim. No, it's not like that. But Enam Tzrichen Tara. Most people don't need Tara, but Rak Masinus Ksas. A little bit of. Hold on a second. What am I doing? I'm being Makabal al Malchus Shemayim. Think about it a little bit. Ad Sheyiyah Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam Meir Einei Sichlam. Because like the second shot of the Bryce is, look, you want to be an Ani Badas, and be a Pashadiyat, fine, but the Krishmas just becomes words. So no, stop, think, remember. The remember that Hashem created you. Remember your neshama, and with a little bit of thought, that's what he says, Rak Masinus Ksas, with a little bit of patience is probably the right translation. You'll have a case of Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam, connect to the Ner of your neshama. Ad Sheyeh Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam Meir Einei Sichlam. Okay, so again, we find the inyan of Ner, which is what the Gemara is talking about. Third mandamer, everybody with me? Yeah. Chad mandamer, now we have a third opinion. Belel Shabbos. Chad mandamer ki belele Shabbos. What's up with Shabbos? As Rashi Shakol Muchan Miboid Yoim. It's all there for you, it's all ready. So this is a deeper level. So you, in other words, like the way we've gone, you go from the Ani who has no das to the Leil Shabbos, which has no das. What does it mean it has no das? You don't need to have all this thought, masinus, and connecting to the neshama before you say Kriya Shema Shel Arvis. It's like Friday night. That you do all day. By the time you're going to get to Kriya Shema, Muchan umazuman. That's what it means. I'm there. Why am I there? Because I'm always preparing for this moment. So that's like a new kavanah here in Leil Shabbos, that the as Asher Reviu, the Pshat in Leil Shabbos on a sophisticated level is that I'm coming prepared. Like we know Hillel Shammai, like they prepared every day. Every day, Yom Yom they prepared every day for Shabbos, and that's what it means. That like Shabbos is the ultimate of the Bria, and I come prepared. But when you come prepared, like say you've prepared like crazy for a speech you're going to give. So when it comes to the speech, you don't have to think. Boom, it just goes out. But if you come unprepared, I'm a shtickle expert in this. If you become unprepared for a speech, you could smell the wood burning, because you really got to be on your feet and on your toes. But it doesn't just, it's not shotef, it doesn't. So the same thing is with Kriya Shema, prepare ahead. And then finally, and this is kind of amazing, we'll get to explain this for a minute. Halacha kakohanim. The halacha reverts back to the Mishnah. And it's not, the Zman Krishna is not about an Ani. That's why you should Pitay Melech. It's not about Roy Bnei Adam, and it's not about Leil Shabbos. You got to be like a Kohen. And what's a Kohen? What's the pshat in a Kohen? Halacha kakohanim shehema batlonim mikol inyonei olam hazeh. Kohen is not busy with the world. Shein lahem el Eisek HaTorah, Shevet Levi, right? Eisek HaTorah. Mashakasav Rambam Seif Hilchos Shmita V'Yovel, as the Rambam famously says at the end of Shmita V'Yovel, V'chein Shamati B'zeh, and that's what I heard from my Rabbi the Yizbitcher. V'achilosam Kodesh LaHashem, when they eat, they're eating kodshim, they're eating holy things. Utzrichen Tara, they have to be matara first. V'kach l'kriya shema nifne v'noitel yadav, you have to do a tahara, like we said in Oisvav. Now, when I said at the beginning that it's hard for me to understand, is he saying, like you have to say Kriya Shema like a Kohen, and you should have nothing to do with Gashmis ever, and just learn all day like Shevet Levi. And that's the proper thing. Is he saying that? It's impossible to say he's saying that because he didn't hold the what?
Meaning the Kohanim are eating.
Yeah, they're eating the truma. They also have cows. First of all, but second of all, like this is a very correct. They're eating so, but this is a very often quoted Yeshiva Rambam, which tells us that we're not supposed to be working, or that like working for a living is b'diavad. Everybody's allowed to be Shevet Levi. And if I can digress for 1 second, which is not a digression at all, that always is a stira. That's a kasha on another famous Rambam that says you're not allowed to you have to work. You shouldn't be a kardim lachber boy. Person has to be oisik in his parnasa and his achila. I have a yishuv for this Rambam, but that's for Shabbos Shuvah Drasha. It's not for now. But the Rambam seems to be soiser himself as to whether it's better to be a Shevet Levi, which look working, that's for plebeians. Like I'm gonna be a holy roller, or is it that that you're supposed to be part of this world and Nenami Giakapai, etc. Okay, what does Rav Tzadok want from this Rambam here? This is the question. And I just want to, and that's the part I said I had a hard part getting my brain around. And I'd like to explain it, which I think is the right shot. The right shot in this. Did everybody get, I sent you a piece from the Kehillas Yeshurun in your WhatsApp. If you could access that, I'd appreciate it. I have an actual Kehillas Yeshurun here. Now, you probably realize that the Kehillas Yeshurun, another sefer we should learn, was first of all written by the Ramchal. And I actually have a very fancy Kehillas Yeshurun, which has 2 versions of the Kehillas Yeshurun, but more important, he brings every source in the Ramchal, Derech Hashem, etc., where the Kehillas Yeshurun says, as in the history of it was, that at one point in the Kehillas Yeshurun, in the Ramchal's life, the Gedolim forbade him from learning or teaching Kabbalah. So at that point in his life, he wrote the Kehillas Yeshurun because it's not a Kabbalah sefer. But then the Talmidim after him explained that it's all Kabbalah, but it's disguised as Nigla. So he pulled a fast one on the world by writing the Kehillas Yeshurun. So the Kehillas Yeshurun goes in order of a person's growing in this world. The final place where we need to get to, based on the Brisa, is Kedusha. And in Perek Vav, he explains Kedusha. And I have the whole Perek, but I just want to give you the basics of it here. And this is so important for us to read. Kedoshim to you want to be holy. What does it mean to be holy, right? So he says as follows. Hine, please read with me. Ha'isha miskadesh b'kedushas borei, a holy person, afilu maisav hagashmiyim choizrim liyos inyane kedusha mamash. Even there is no division at all between his physical life and his spiritual life. I want to say something. Rabbi said, this is the goal. This is the end of the Kehillas Yeshurun. How to get there, you need a whole Kehillas Yeshurun. But the goal is not that I'm leaving my ruchnias and doing gashmias. I'm leaving my gashmias and I'm doing ruchnias. Not that I have a house and I have a shul. It's all one thing, which is the essence of Malchus. There is nothing else. The holy person, it's whether he's driving a Rolls Royce or he's driving a cheap car. Doesn't make any difference. It's all one thing. There's nothing to be guilty about. There's nothing ascetic about the holy person. In the previous chapter, he talks about tahara, a way to get to kedusha, and that starts with asceticism. But here he's talking about the goal, kedusha. So he says as follows: Simoncha, the simon that he's right, achilas kodshim, that's our kohanim, right? Achilos kodshim, shehi atzma mitzvahs esay. Exactly what Doran Kornbluth just said. You have to eat kodshim. That's a mitzvahs esay. Like the whole world gets a kapara because I'm eating. Hello. The whole world should get a kapara because I'm fasting. Says the Mesil Shisharm. Let me explain to you the difference between somebody who's tahar and somebody who's kaddish. They often say about tzaddikim, he's a tahar but kaddish. Tahar, a person who's a tahar, anything gashmias he does is just schleps along. What can I do? I have to eat. What can I do? I have to sleep. Ein breira, or I have to work for a living. The tahar is thinking about the gashmias in his life as something that I'm stuck, I need to do. Hooray, I'm a human being. There's something to be said for it, says the Mesil Zisharm, because you're getting yourself detached, physically detached from the gashias. And what is a tar? Tar means you're pure. A pure means that I'm not attached to the gashmias. But this person who's completely ascetic has not come to the madrega of kedusha. He'd rather not have this gashmias. However, the person who's a kadosh, it's the higher madrega, the Chafetz Chaim, the higher madrega, hadavik tami le'loikov, who's constantly attached to Hashem. And his neshama, his nefesh, moves freely, right? Between all true intelligibles. I just read that. Hine nechshav loy ki ilu hu mishalech lifnei Hashem ba'artzos hachayim. That person who's living in the world of gashmius, in this world, it's as if he's walking ba'artzos hachayim or denopai ba'olam hazeh. It's as if he's in olam ha. Olam ha, there's no difference, right? Tzadikim bebisasim nikraim chayim. There's no difference. In other words, the bigger madrega than separating oneself from gashmias is integrating oneself with gashmias. Let's go further. This person is considered like the mishkan, kamikdash, kamizbeach, ukamaymarim zechrenim levracha, v'yalmi olav elikim. What is a mizbeach if not someplace where you take basar and you burn it up and you make a reich nichoyach? We find different chazal that says Hatzadikim hein ha-merkava, that the tzadikim are the ones that are carrying the gashmiistic world. You see, the avos are the same thing. The tzadikim, the avos, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, are the same thing as the Beis Hamikdash. Hein ha-merkava, and the reason is because we're making karbanos on them. Life is a carbon. I'm taking food and I'm turning it into Malchus Hashem. Please understand this. When a tzaddik eats, when a kaddish eats something, who could carbon sha'ala al gabe ha'ishim, he's brought a carbon. Not to separate yourself from the food, eat more of it. Just like you are doing a great elevation by bringing something to the Mizbeach, you're dedicating it to the Shechina. And there's such an advantage to it. This is beautiful. You know, like if the Kohen brings a carbon mincha and brings some barley onto the Mizbeach, all the barley in the world, says the Gemara, is elevated and misparach, and it'll actually work better. You know, I just want to add in this, Gashmias is a very, very big part of our religion. Asceticism is a very, very big part of being a monk. The Kain HaMeichel v'HaMishta Sha'ish HaKadosh Oichel. So this Meichel Mishpah that the Kaddish is eating, Ilui Hula Meichel Ahu v'HaMishta Ahu Kilu Nikra v'Gabem Mizbeach Mamash. V'hu ha'inyan, I'm reading a little fast because I want to get through this, and I know you're all very educated. V'hu ha'inyan Shamar Olav Zecharinim L'Bracha. This is what Chazal mean when they say, Kol ha'mevi doirein l'Talmud Chacham Kilu Hikr V'Kikurim. If you bring a gift to a Talmud Chacham, it's as if you brought Bikurim on the base of Mikdash. You are Makadosh that food. By the way, this is probably the pshat in the Hasidic Rebbe's tissues. And making a kiddush and shul, as I spoke about last week. B'chein amru, it also says, Yimala groinim shel talmidei chacham yayin, give the Talmud Chacham wine, because it's like bringing nesachim. It's like bringing nesachim on the Mizbeach. This doesn't mean doesn't mean the Talmidei Chacham should walk around drunk every day. Chas v'sholom, shimala groinim kemalat as hagargron, just to enjoy life. Elohe inyanhu. But what it really means is what I just explained. The Talmud Chacham who's learning Torah, who's dedicated to Torah, and please refer in your mind to what Rav Tzadok said about Shevet Levi. That's the person this guy's a Mizbeach. Like you're filling up the vessels in the Mishkan, in the Mizbeach, in the Beis HaMikdash. And because of this, anything that the Talmud Chacham is using in this world, it's all Kedusha. So for the Talmud Chacham, walking into if a true Kaddish, a real Kaddish we're talking about, this is a Madrega, which he says over and over again, you got to be on the Madrega. I'm just saying the goal. For the Talmud Chacham walking into a fancy restaurant and fancy meal, that's no different for him than going to shul. He goes on, that's the pshat, he says,
it's 10 o'clock.
That's the pshat, the stones that Yaakov took to put under his head. Let's just finish this last paragraph and then I'm briefly related to the Reb Tzadok. What this all means, as the Rebbe Yisharm, Ramcha, Inyan HaKedusha hu sheyeh adam davek kol kach ve'aleikav, that a person should be so attached to Hashem, ad shebeshum ma'aseh asher yaseh lo yiparei, that whatever he does in this world, he's not separating from Hashem. Lo yazuz mimenu yisparach. Ad sheyoser, now underline this, if you have the technology. Ad sheyoser yisalu hadvarim hagashmim asher yishamshu le'echon mitashmishav. To the point that the Gashmias that he's using to live in this world as a Dovek Ba'Hashem, it's a higher thing. Those are holier. Mimashi Yorad hu mitvekusai umalasai v'ishtamshai b'dvarim Gashmi. Okay, but meaning, what did we just learn? I'll say I'm gonna synopsize it in my words in one sentence. That the goal is not to push away Gashmias, anything physical from this world, not food, not anything. The goal is to integrate it into our lives. You see, Rabbi Akiva, Acher, Ben Zoyma, Ben Azai, walked into the Pardes. I've often referred to this Gemara. Ben Azai hitzitz v'meis. Ben Azai was, I'm not criticizing Ben Azai, but Ben Azai was the one who, nafshei chashka b'Torah, and no kesher to anything gashmias. He didn't get married. He was like completely involved in kedusha, and Rabbi Akiva took him on this journey to walk through the pardes, and he couldn't handle it. He didn't. Acher couldn't handle because he didn't have anything. And Azai couldn't handle it because he was an ascetic. Bottom line was, Ben Azai was an ascetic. And maybe we'll cover not Lag Baimer next week. Just to finish this off, we'll talk about Rav Shem Bar Yochai because that's such an important part of this puzzle. But Klolei Shel Davar is that one wants to be completely integrative from their Gashmias and their Ruchnias. So you have the Ani, which doesn't have a lot of Ruchnias. You have the Leil Shabbos, which doesn't have a lot of Gashmias. But you have the Kohen, and the Kohen is eating Kudshim and eating Truma. And it's all, if you would walk into the Beis HaMikdash, what you would see is a very, very beautiful butcher shop. It would be, cows being shechted and things being cooked and a barbecue being made, and you would smell the smoke. It would be, it would look like Yom Ha'atzmaut, that's how the Beis HaMikdash would look, and that would be the biggest place of kedusha, because Hashem would say, look at Banai, that everything Gashmias in this world is for me. And the Talmud Chacham doesn't make a distinction between Gashmias and Ruchnias. Comes Reb Tzadok and he teaches us that halacha kekohanim, that the pshat in Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim, let's just absorb this final sentence, that the pshat in Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim halachic kohanim, and you don't have to be a Levi for this, he says, anybody can do this, is when you are so integrated with Gashmias that you're able to bring everything, your achila, of course, your shtia, your housing, your every part of the Gash, your Friday afternoon spa, whatever you're doing in the world of Gashmias, your vacations, whatever you're doing, all the Gedolim went to the Swiss Alps, but whatever you're doing, it's completely integrated. It's no stira. I say the Brisker Rav had no guilt by sitting and looking at the Alps. That was part of his Ruchnias. The Gedolim have no problem with this. It's the lower Madregas that can't somehow marry the Gashmias and the Ruchnias together. And it doesn't mean to say that we got to all run out and try to get rich, maybe. But what I'm saying is that there's no, I work for a living also. It's Ruchnias to me. I'm not machalik. I don't this amount of time, that's the learning. It's all one thing. It's all one thing. And that's the goal of life. It's all one thing. Being mefarnes your family, taking care of your health, enjoying this world. It's all one thing. That's the madrega of a Kohen. Surrounded by gold, dressed in beautiful clothing, eating wonderful food. And everybody's supporting that and taking part of it where they can. Korban Pesach, everybody's eating the Korban Pesach. That's the Kedusha, and that's the pshat with Reb Tzadok. There's more to explain in the words, but I don't want to go over time. I wish you all a good Shabbos.
Thank you very, very much.
Oh, Rabbi Yaakov, you're here. How are you feeling?
I'm better, Baruch Hashem. Slowly.
I want to see everybody. With the nafas of seeing everybody one minute. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi. Wow.
Rabbi. Have a good
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.